There's a kind of fear that shows up when telling the truth doesn't just affect you, when it affects your family, your kids, and the life you built. My guest today is Alon Ozery. He's a founder and a father who came out later in life while married and raising children. And in this conversation, he shares what that moment was really like, the fear he carried, the questions his kids asked, and what actually mattered to them when the truth was finally spoken. And what stood out to me is how human this moment was. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't complicated, it was just pure honesty. This is the story of identity, it's a story about family, and what happens when life reorganizes around the truth. Let's dive right in. As a gay man, I'd like to start with your coming out story. Would you be willing to kind of share what was that coming out story for you and what was the catalyst for that? And then you wrote a book on it.
I came out late in life. I came out at age 42. And at the time I had 3 kids and a wife. And I'd say in my mid-30s, I went to this self-help course, and in which I guess this authenticity button within me was triggered. And from that moment on, there was that really strong inner message that I'm not living authentically with myself. And within a few years, obviously, that affected our marriage. And we ended up, I guess I was in the basement, and my now ex-wife, well, actually, she's not my ex-wife. She's my, we're still married officially, but we're separated. And
Okay.
she lived upstairs. I started searching, and the biggest issue for me was less the sexuality, although that was terrifying because I was established, I had a business, we're known in the community, and that was scary for everyone to know. But the biggest fear was for me not to be with my kids under the same roof, and that was one of the biggest fears. However, that didn't stop the process, and I went to a therapist that deals with sexuality, and we ignored and kind of danced around the elephant in the room for, I think, 3 sessions. And during the 3rd session, he asked me, "Well, Alon, are you gay?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I've never been with a man." So he stopped for a second and thought, and then he looked at me and said, "Well, maybe you should find out for your wife's benefit if you are." That was a brilliant move on his end, because until then, for whatever reason, it was buried deep inside, and I always distracted myself with life. It may be with
Sure.
business, and then with kids, and then in my mid-30s, as I said, kind of that kind of started surfacing because I couldn't distract it anymore. And I was thinking there, and I said, for my wife, I'm willing to do that, which is silly because I should have been able to do that for myself a long time before.
Sure.
Either way, that was a message that I needed to hear. And within, I'd say, a month or two, because until then, I've never done anything. And because we were practically separated in 2 different floors, I went and had an experience. And lo and behold, when that experience happened, all the questions were gone. The moment I had that experience, it was, oh my God, like like I
Yeah.
knew it was beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am gay. So there
Yeah.
was a sense of freedom and relief. And with that, at parallel, I was terrified because I knew that I had to tell my wife about this news. And within, I'd say, 3 months, which were horrendous months of holding and waiting for the right moment to tell her, but within 3 months, I found the right moment. The kids were staying with my parents, and I told her, and it was, we both cried that whole evening. But there was a lot of relief, and I think it was the right thing at the time.
Why did it take so long?
Well, I was terrified. So the confirmation that I am gay happened only then. It's not as if I've done anything physical with a man before. And so for me, that was the proof. It was in the back of my mind. It was a knowledge that I've avoided and built a whole life around. But with that, I was able to live for a good number of years. But the moment I knew I think she was the second or third person that I told. I told a good friend, which was a
Okay.
relief. And then she was okay. I need to talk to her. But it was, is this the right moment? Is this the right moment? And then I just waited when again we went out and the kids were at my parents and we were alone in the house, and
Yeah.
it was time. So that was I couldn't avoid it any longer.
How long ago was this?
Ooh, I was 42, so that's 14 years now.
I had feelings or ideas when I was in high school, but at that time, I was not willing to admit it. And I came out at 19. What was your relationship or understanding of what being gay? Did it
Mhm.
ever cross your mind? Did you ever have thoughts about it? Or was just everything just all coming to you at once the moment your therapist said, "Hey, do you think you're gay?"
I'd say that I definitely had it on my mind. I think that I was really, really good in denial. And I think for a while there, the mind, because this gay people, I didn't really know anyone growing up. And it wasn't, it just didn't know a normal, quote unquote, normal living gay person. So my explanation was maybe I'm bi. And my rationalization of that was okay. It's okay if I'm bi. It's just like so I can look at attractive man and do nothing. It's just like a heterosexual man looks at a woman and does nothing. That doesn't mean he cheats. I think those kind of loopy rationalizations go through our mind to explain certain realities. It definitely, that's what happened with me. And as I said, I distracted myself. So at the early age, I started with a business, and the business took all my energies to grow. And it did. And it took a lot of those energies. And I met my wife. She was younger than I am, and we got married young. And so we kind of, that inertia of young marriage, business, we work together. She's a great person. We're still friends. I appreciate her and care for her very, very much. So it wasn't a sense of a black and white kind of situation. Um, you know, several truths can lie one next to another, while
Sure.
they may contradict each other also at the same time.
You said denial. You said that maybe you were in denial, so maybe subconsciously or consciously, maybe that was there for you. But how much of it do you think was like cultural conditioning or programming?
My grandparents were Orthodox Jewish, and that was their strong influence on us. So I think it's all of the above. I think also being maybe firstborn, and as a firstborn, I took upon myself, burdens that were self-inflicted, as to live my life as I thought I was expected to live. It doesn't even mean that. And my parents were very open. There was no homophobia really around us, but I took upon myself a certain reality of succeeding, working hard, and I guess following and behaving a certain way. And only later on in life have I started shedding all those self-imposed kind of behaviors and expectations that I thought were of me and were really not. And it was a very freeing process, and this process is still happening as we speak. Every day that I step and feel more and more comfortable into my skin, and I feel very comfortable with my skin these days. It was a long process, and it took years to in the making.
Yeah, this is perfect. I love that you're talking about it's like shedding layers of maybe things that are no longer you or aren't you, and that you can really fully feel comfortable in who you are. And I think that's a big part of one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring you onto the show. It's like, how can you be fully, authentically, and boldly yourself? How can you be so unique and so different that it's your own journey? It doesn't matter what people think, it doesn't matter what society says or whatever the conditioning or religion or whatever the things that are the programming that we've been introduced when we're younger. But at some point in our journey in our lives, I think the goal or my aspiration for people is that they find their way into being truly who they are. So now you're on the other side. You've come out. What was that journey like for you when you started to step into more of who you are? Did this change anything in your business? Did this change your circle of friends? Did this change your outlook on life? Like, what shifted then for you now that you've made that declaration?
I've noticed a few interesting things that happened. So there was a huge sense of relief. And I moved out of our home to an apartment, which was 10, 15 minutes away. So that's fairly close to the family home. I went to have dinner a couple times a week, and the kids
Yeah.
came to me. We were very close. We always had Friday night dinners together. We went on trips together. And yeah, and this is when we told our kids, I was terrified. And my then wife insisted that we tell them why. I wanted to avoid that at any cost, but she insisted, and good for her for insisting. And I think there were two questions the kids asked. They said, one was, are we still going to have Friday night dinners together? And because we're a big
Mm,
family and we're always together, and we look at each
yeah.
other and we kind of nod silently. And I said, yes, we are. We're going to have them. And then the second question was, are we going to go on trips together? And we looked at each other again and we nodded and we said, yes, we are. And for a few years after that, we did. We had a big Africa trip a few years later. And again, that we wanted to show them that we are still a family in just a different form. With the business, me feeling in my skin and more comfortable with who I am, I'd say 6 months into my coming out and still going, co-CEOing the business with my brother, which is a medium-sized bakery. We sell across North America products. Everything we did went into the bakery. We're building it, and equipment and people, and we always took a salary. And I'd say 6 months after I came out, I'm like, guys, let's take some money out. We deserve this. And it was the first time that we took a lot of money
Uh-huh.
each. I mean, like $100 and something thousand each. I've never seen a check like that. To me, there was a connection. There was some connection between me shedding that kind of my old self, which was not authentic, and being authentic. To me, was a message that the universe is saying, yes, continue doing this. For me, sexuality was just one shedding. There were several others that followed suit. Today, I've moved out of the bakery. I'm still a partner, and definitely it's involved. But now my passions go elsewhere, where I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm doing other things that are more me, which I wouldn't
Yeah.
have dared to do before.
It's almost like because you came out, now it just kind of cracked open other opportunities for you. Why don't you tell people the name of your book? Because I think it's actually quite fascinating. I love the title. What was the name of the book, and what was that journey like for you in sharing that story?
The name of the book was Even the Sidewalk Could Tell, and it's available on Amazon. What's funny, Ree, is that I, prior to that, as part of the growth process, I could not write a paragraph in English. I have convinced myself that I could not write. And
Okay.
so I avoided writing in English I couldn't write well in any language, by the way, not that I'm good in any other languages. And,
Okay.
and this book thing came after some medicine work and some self-exploration. And it was as if I was given permission to speak. And a friend said that there was a message for me. And she said, Alon, your voice should be heard. And with people, really positive people, such as Philip McKernan, by the way, he got me to do the one last talk at
Yeah.
which is a great project of his. And I did the one last talk about coming out, and then he kind of bent my arm, forced me to go to a book thing with Tucker Max and
Yeah.
him in Austin for 3 days. And I said, I'm coming under protest. I can't write in English, but I'll come, and I just sit there. He said, no problem, just come. And I thought people would be typing and starting to write, their whole biographies and whatnot. And it wasn't that. It was just talking about, why do you want to write the book? What is a message you have for the world? And write a book as
Yes.
if nobody's going to read it. So I think
Yes.
that also gave me permission to say, oh, let me try that. And then when I got on the airplane from Austin to Toronto, you know how I at least I turn on a video and then I disappear in a movie. It's just an
Yes.
automatic thing. And I stopped myself. I sat in my seat and my hand was halfway towards the screen. As I stopped myself, I said, no, let me write something. So I took out my computer and I was so in it, like within 5 to 10 minutes, the plane was landing. 3 hours have vanished as
Yeah.
I was writing a couple of stories.
Like you were in flow.
And when I'm in flow, and I've never experienced that with writing. And I think what was important was I wasn't focusing on spelling, and I wasn't focusing on grammar, and like there was flow, and I wasn't stopping myself from the flow, which I usually do now, less and less, by the way, for the sake of being quote unquote perfect. And that started the process, kind of the floodgates. And I started writing every morning at 7 a.m., 7 to whatever. And they said, write 1,000 words a day. That's it. And then within a few
Yeah.
months, I'd say the basis of the book is ready. And I wasn't writing to write a book. I was writing for the sake of writing. And then I printed everything and put it on the floor in my living room. And like, holy cow, I think I may have a book here.
How did you arrive at the title of your book?
The name of the book came from a very specific moment. I was throughout that coming out process. So I went, so as I told you, my biggest fear was not living with my kids under the same roof. So I found, as I was late at night in the basement, worrying, and I Googled something about, and somehow Gay Fathers of Toronto, which is an organization that meet once a month in the community center down in the gay village in downtown Toronto. And so I said, okay, I need to go. I want to go to one of their meetings. I gathered the strength to go down to the community center. I parked the car several blocks away because I didn't want anyone to see my car in the neighborhood. And I wore my hoodie and I was chewing gum so nervously. And I got there early. And I sat just across the street on the side of the pavement, sweating and worrying and waiting for the time to come. And that was the kind of the picture I had in my mind. I'm thinking that I'm hiding and and that even the Sidewalk could tell is, who am I really kidding? It's just stop kidding myself. And then I went in and from there I got the reference for the therapist that deals with sexuality and the steps kind of followed.
Take me now to this current version of you. You've had these periods of denial. You've had these periods of afraid of not being with your kids. What's the thing that most surprised you with your kids' response in you coming out, and how are they today?
I was extremely worried about that. As I said, I didn't want to tell them why. So let's just tell them we're separating and we'll figure it later on, figure out the details, which was another mean of denial. And as I said, we told them. So the main issue for them was a separation. Actually, they didn't really respond to the sexuality issue. I spent every weekend with them. Sometimes they were with me, sometimes at home, but I'd see them a lot. And the sexuality thing never really hasn't seemed to impact them. I have asked them a few years later, and I have 2 boys and a daughter, and they're now in their mid-20s. And I asked them, guys, how was it? Because I feel sometimes guilty, if they go through struggles or if they are having an issue.
Sure.
It goes through my mind, like, has what I've done, has it impacted them? Has it damaged them? Even though none of it was intentional, but it still goes through my mind. So we had this conversation and my son said, Dad, don't worry about it. He said, never have we've always felt love from you and from Mom. And I was, okay, I probably screwed up. I fucked up, but I always showed love. And they felt that, and that's what's important. And now my house, I live with my partner and my ex, their mom has her partner, both we are partners of 7 years, and her house is bigger, so it's a little more of a center, but my house I'll come in and suddenly my son is in the living room eating the frozen pizza and talking with my partner or just sleeping or whatnot. And I'm so happy there's that level of comfort where this house is their house, really. And They seem to be perfectly fine with it. I also, I've never talked to you. Said you came out at 19 and then you just brushed through it. How did that go for you? I'm curious. Was there acceptance from your family?
This was in the 90s, or this was in the early 90s. This is when gays in the military was a big topic.
Mm.
And I was just like, I every time it was on the news, at the time my parents were separated and my brother was off to college in UC Berkeley, and I'm very close with my mom. And every time that would come up on the news, I would always go into my room. I would like avoid that topic. And for a year, I had met this guy who brought me out of the closet. I dated two guys. And for a year, long story short, I was kind of in the closet dating guys and going to gay bars, clubs on straight night. There's like a straight night at these gay clubs.
Okay.
But because I'm super close with my mom, one day she just sat me down and we're having dinner. And she's like, I had this dream and it wasn't good. And then my heart just started beating really fast. And I totally poker faced it. I was like, okay, well, are you going to tell me about your dream? She said, well, I had this dream that I forgot how we were talking about having sex with men. And I'd asked you if you had been with men and you had said yes. And my heart is beating faster, looking her in the eye. And then you said, and then I asked you how many, and then you said 8. And then she looked me dead in the eye and she goes, is that true? And the first thing I could do was just chuckle because one, it was super uncomfortable. Like you talk about the fear and the being scared and in denial, like all of those emotions I've experienced. And I said, well, yes and no. And the words I used was, yes, I've experimented with men, but it wasn't 8. It was like 2. And then I put my head down, just meet those words coming out of my mouth. I put my head down and I just started bawling and crying. Something really powerful about mothers. Mothers always know. Mothers have intuition. And so she sort of clocked me. She's the one that kind of really pulled me out of the closet because at that time, talking about programming and conditioning, being raised in a Catholic household, at that time, I swore to my mother's grave that I wasn't going to come out. I've experienced a lot of those things. And I think I'm grateful that I did that at 19 because then I got to just experience what it was like to be gay in my 20s. I moved to New York as a young gay man. And at the time I was living in Florida. I didn't want to come out in Florida. And so I moved to New York.
I find really interesting is us saying the words, like the importance of saying words, how much they carry. Sometimes we say, oh, talk is cheap and that, but it isn't really. It isn't. To say words, for me to say I am gay, I'd say for the first year after I came out, it was a challenge.
Yeah.
I'd say it, but very sporadically. And like, if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. Even, you know what I did? My coming out system was, because you never stop coming out. Like sometimes you meet people, they don't know you're gay. Like, what do you do? So you choose to yet say it or not say it. Not that it's anybody's business, but if there's someone I'm going to have, a relationship with or whatnot, a friendship, then I think they need to know, and somehow I infuse it into the sentence. But at first I wrote a paragraph in just an email, and I'd say, even my father, or so he was not in the country, or friends, I'd say, I'm going to send you an email. Read the email and then let's talk 20 minutes later. So that was my sneaky way of not saying I'm gay. I said, so you read it, everything is okay, and then kind of move on. Get it out there and move on.
It is funny you say that because even the words that I used was like I wasn't ready to admit that I was gay. The words I use, as you recall, I was like, I've experimented. And because I was in this phase, or I was thinking that I was in this phase that I don't know, I wasn't ready to admit it. And of course I had this like bisexual phase. Yeah. Even though I knew that I was attracted to men, I had this like phase where I was bisexual. And so it was a little bit of a longer coming out, I suppose. It wasn't like, yes, this is it. And a lot of that had to do with the programming and the conditioning and the fear and the, gays in the military, don't ask, don't tell, like that whole period, the AIDS epidemic. And there was just a lot of fear around that. There weren't any role models. that I could look up to were of healthy gay relationships, and all I saw was just on media. Now there's a level of comfort and confidence in being able to say the gender.
Hmm.
uh, there's some power in that. So I'm just curious now, do you feel that utmost alignment and power and confidence in being able to declare who you are so
Hmm.
that then you can help other people to be aligned with who they are?
Definitely. Yes, I today feel very comfortable with it, and it's as you said, it's for people to see someone who's functioning, happy, has friends, and is gay. It is not. I do agree. It's just part of who we are. It's not. Doesn't define us. It's just part of it. For me, before there used to be the sexual connotation, and my I was shy about it because I would imagine that the person I'm telling immediately thinks about the sexual aspects of it, and I was embarrassed by that because I thought it's nobody's business.
Right.
It's something that is private, and
Right.
it is nobody's business. But it's so much more than that, and now I don't think about it. And if anybody wants to think about whatever they want, they can think about it, and that's their issue. And because at the end of the day, it will be what will matter, is how I carry myself after that.
Yeah.
And I have no shame. I have happiness and all, and I wish it on everyone around me. And that's how I
Yes.
carry myself around, that's the message they're going to get, no matter what their initial response was.
I'm curious, have you had any negative or backlash in coming out? And if so, what did that look like? And how did you respond to those things that might not have been so positive?
Yeah, mostly it was positive within my communities. There
Okay.
was a family member that I'd say it affected our relationship for 10 years. They were very close, and I was surprised by their response. But now all is good. So it took them 10 years. And it's for me, it's always, I had 42 years to process this. So as I said, I'm a
Yeah.
little slow. They need time. Many people need time. And I give them
Yeah.
the time. And when they're ready, they'll come around, or they won't. It's okay either way.
So you had a bakery for many years, the Ozery Bakery, right? But I'm really interested in your coaching work and your
Yeah.
energetic work, because I feel like you are really helping to usher and help other people to step into their alignment. Tell me about your body of work and how this is really bringing you great joy and fulfillment.
It's hard to explain these experiences with words. Words are fairly limited, yet we
Sure.
have to use them to convey messages and describe situations. So the best way I could describe it is they're a ball of just pure love for everything. Pure love, the as strong as the sun. And it touched everything in the universe, including every stone, every rock, every plant, every human. And I cannot that's the best I can explain it. And then it
Okay.
subsided and calmed down. And then I learned a lot about energy. My biggest learning was not to give from my own energy, because for a while there I was working with a healer and healing people from giving from my own energy, which really affected me badly and negatively, and took me down to levels of depression at times. Since then, I've learned not to work with my energy and just channel when necessary. And what I really like jumping to today, so like just only in the recent year would I put together that I'm an entrepreneur and an energy guide and a coach all together. I kept it in the back and was afraid to show it. And today, just ever so naturally, it's happening. And so a year ago, I started taking courses to learn coaching with CTI, which was
Right.
I really like what they're teaching.
Yeah.
A couple of the instructors took me to the side and said, you need to do this. But I was still afraid to jump in and say, and do this officially. But actually in February this year, fear actually pushes me towards doing things. And I was terrified. There were a lot of business issues that we had. I didn't know if our business would survive, and it was a fairly big business. And I was terrified of it. I said, okay, when I'm terrified, what are the things I can do? So on the business end of things, we did everything we can do. And I said, what else can I do? And I said, let me go ahead and do something about this coaching practice. So I built a site and let my group of people on social know that I'm starting this. And within less than a year, today I'm in a place that is just I'm so thankful for being afraid that I'm going to lose the business because it pushed me to do this. And today this is not work. I have a bunch of clients. There's a group that we work and do energy work, and it's guided energy work. So basically, people are learning how to use energy themselves. It's not me giving them anything. And it's just magical. And to see how
Mm.
people react to it and how positive an impact it has on people. For me, this was another coming out process of I'm not only am I business driven and profit driven, um, I'm here to do more. I want to connect with people, and it's so rewarding, and you form new friendships and discover new wonderful people. I'm beyond. I have no words. I sound. I sorry. You stop me mid sentence if you need. Just I feel very fortunate to do what I'm doing, and I'm still even not there. It's fairly early stages of this process, but I know that it's okay. The energy is there. My vibration is maxima is in almost full bloom at certain moments, and that is telling me that this direction is right. Working on self changes things around you and brings people to you, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it happening.
You said a question earlier when you were kind of exploring this, what seemed to be a challenging time in your business, and what are you doing the bakery, and you're not sure if it was going to succeed, and you had asked yourself the question, what can I do? Another question uh, that could also be just as empowering or insightful is like, well, who do I get to be? Who do you get to be now as someone who leads a group, who coaches people, who has them work with energy, who also doesn't take on that energy, is just like you're really like a conduit, if you will, to help people access their energy. Who do you get to be now?
So that's a beautiful question. Thank you. I'd say when I'm in the zone, and I'm more and more in the zone when working with people, it's as if I am the purest version of myself, where there are no stories, there's no kind of whisper telling me, judging me, warning me about how am I be seen, what am I doing, etc., which I used to have quite often. I mean, even today it will come at times. But when you're in the
Sure.
moment doing the work with people, it is pure truth. It is pure me. So many times I plan, like for the energy group on Mondays mornings, I sit on Sunday and I connect, and there's a whole thing ready. I write it down, and come Monday morning, and I'm like an hour before, like, no, this is not what. No, it's just not going to be what I thought, because there's some other message that needs to be told. I don't know if it's based on the group, it's based on whatever's happening that day, and you just go with it. It's usually when that happens. That doesn't happen every time, but when it does, it's like it is really powerful, and people seem
Yeah.
to be very happy and benefit from that session. So
Yeah.
that is the for me the purest version of being myself. A little quirky. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes in English sometimes. I make sometimes, it's just, but I think that is the beauty of us also, is when we are just ourselves.
If you were to go and coach and be a coach or a mentor to this 20 something year old Alon, what would be your biggest coaching advice that you would give this younger version of yourself?
Everything worked out exactly the way it should have. Re. I think that I really do. If there's something I'm sorry about, is if I've hurt people in the process. And that I am sorry about. But it wasn't intentional, and it wasn't malicious at all.
Sure.
But everything happened the way it should. And I'm really happy today. And I'm happy with my kid's mother. We still share the same bank account. We still are a unit, and we care for each other. So Um, I would tell another 20-year-old, not necessarily myself. So the best way is to live a full vibration, for them not to have that voice in the back of their head judging them and telling them what they should and shouldn't do.
Okay.
It is just to show up um as they are. And you know what, when I came out, I used to part of I played with this a little, is also with movement. So I'd walk,
Hmm.
in certain ways, a little like
Sure.
straight, a little more gay, a little more runway. It was so interesting to play with that, because I think the we hold a lot in our body. We hold a lot of our traumas in our body,
Sure.
and
Sure.
how we appear physically also is interconnected connected with how we are metaphysically and energetically, and they all influence one another. So even me changing my walk into a different way of walking will affect my energetic
Yeah.
stance. So just all this, just play with it, be with it. It's okay. Just lay off a little. It's okay. Everything is okay.
Yeah. If people wanted to find more about your energetic work, your coaching work, or your bakery or your book, where should we send them to?
Well, alonozery.com. So that's my website, which I'm eternally unhappy with, but you can connect with me there. The book is there also. So information about the book. I used to do podcasts and interviewing a bunch of restaurateurs in Toronto, which I really liked. I think I interviewed 40 or 50 restaurants, and I've kind of ended with that. And then there's the coaching page also, which needs to be updated, but it still gives you a snapshot of where I was a few months ago. And the bakery is ozerybakery.com. Our products sell in supermarkets, Whole Foods across the country, and a couple other places. We're a medium-sized bakery based on our Yemeni Jewish roots. And yeah, that's where you can find us.
Yeah, Alon, it was such a joy. I feel so energized just getting to know you a little bit more and sharing your story and learning little bit about your background and how you've really stepped into overcoming all this fear and denial to really step into your most authentic version of yourself. And I can just see this new embodied version. And now you get to really tap into all of your superpowers and gifts to be able to help people on their journey. So thank you for your time. I look forward to connecting with you soon. Any final words that you'd like to share before we hop off?
No, just thank you so much, Ree. I'm thank you for inviting me here, and I am actually recharged now. I'm ready to take on the world. Just I wish everyone to come out every other day. Come out.
This is your call to action to come out of the closet, be fully authentic who you are, and surround yourself with people who energize you. Until the next time, Alon, thank you so much. We'll chat with you soon. Bye,
Take care,
everyone.
Ree. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you gathered at least one nugget that you can take into your life today. To dive deeper into my work, please visit reperez.com. That's reperez.com. It's a central hub to explore how to work one-on-one with me, to connect with me on Instagram or social media, or you can check out my new book, Your Brand Should Be Gay Even If You're Not, or you can inquire about booking me to speak to your audiences about the power of building a category of one brand, your unique gifts and your unique superpowers. Lean into what sets you apart, and I'll see you next week.